Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by.
Alex Giassa is here, and we're going to talk about real estate and getting rich with real estate. How does that sound, Alex?
That sounds exciting. Let's do it.
Chat. You like that? Let's chat for half an hour. Let's add some value to the people. You know, they're real estate investors. A lot are up in Canada, usually solopreneurs. They want to get rich. They want to hear ideas. And I'm trying to add value to them. Who am I? Kenneth French, vastsolutionsgroup.com. I'm also here speaking to you on the Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. So right off the bat, let's go. Number one, give our listeners and viewers one tip that's going to make them rich with real estate based on something you know.
Buy early.
Well, that's a good start.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's what you always hear, right? Or you it's what you hear and sometimes what you think to yourself. I should have done that yesterday. But that is the reality. If you wait for just like in a stock market or anything else, if you wait for a drop, it's not going to happen when you expect it or when you're ready. So acting when you are ready, financially, mentally, you're everything is, if everything is aligned, you should do it now rather than later.
But what about the thought that people are saying, well, there's an oncoming crash? What about that thought?
People have been saying, isn't there a guy on some corner somewhere saying it's the end of the world?
Yeah.
I mean, that's been going on for years. But yeah, I can understand that concern. I'm not dismissing that. The reality here in Florida is a little bit different. If you step outside of Florida, you could see some pockets of that. And actually, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. If you step outside of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Palm Beach area, Tampa Bay is doing well. I've heard about some issues in Jacksonville, but I'm not there, so I'm not going to speak to that. All I can tell you is that Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach is still going strong. The influx of money from Citadel, the influx from Microsoft. I can go on naming all these companies, but people are coming. And here's one of the things. Somebody who said this to me, and I agree with what this hashtag is. It's Long Miami. It's not today. It's 10 years from now, 20 years from now. But Miami is poised to really take over in the next, I'm not going to say century, but in the next 20, 30 years, it will take over as maybe the capital of the finance industry. Maybe even Silicon Valley. That might be a stretch, but if the companies already are sending their sales and marketing teams here, then that's usually always the first step. HR follows, and then the other departments. So I see that coming. Again, it's not tomorrow. It's hashtag Long Miami.
All right, let's think a couple things there. Number one, I'm sure, obviously you do real estate, but they're trying to make that move to crypto, bringing crypto to Miami. I know that's a big deal. So I would partially agree with you that there's a move afoot to get money and infrastructure down to Miami. I would agree with that, I think. So wait a minute, let's back up. So it sounds as though your big push is Miami, or I should say Florida, but you do real estate in other parts of, I guess, the state and maybe even nation, correct?
I'm solely focused in Florida.
Okay.
Well, that's my license is, I should say. And my primary focus is South Florida. So that is from Palm Beach to Miami counties. So it's those three, Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade. So Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, Miami. Yes.
I got you.
And there's a lot going on.
And you're bringing in people from Canada. You talk to a lot of Canadians who are looking to build, et cetera, in, I guess, Southern Florida, correct?
Correct. The Canadian experience is difficult, right? They have a lot of challenges ahead of them between laws and just the way the rental industry is set up there. So somebody could wind up staying in your house for years before they are evicted. They could not pay you for years before. These are all huge challenges for them. Yet I'm amazed at how they survive, and not just survive, but they thrive. They're not really victims, right? They make the best of it. And now they're like, you know what? Screw this. We don't have to put up with this crap. Let's go to Florida. Let's go to Texas. Let's get out of here and really make some money. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I got it. So, and just to let you know, so we have 1,800 real estate agents who are up in Canada that do or kind of do business with us through a strategic alliance, and we have a lot of clients. But I don't know that number off the top of my head. So anyway, so you're talking to people I think who are going to be listening and watching this, although we're having technical glitches, so it might just be audio. So what is it that you can offer to a Canadian person specifically who's looking to get in Florida? A little bit more in depth. I want to understand your process a little bit more, or what you have to offer.
Sure. So, first things first, we need for them to kind of understand the rules, right? And what are those rules? That's where you come in. You can help them understand the tax rules, the implications, how to set up an LLC, which one, corp, whatever it is, right? Anything like that. That's probably the first thing they should do.
Look at you. Nice way to set us up. I like that.
Yeah, because if they know that, or at least if they can say, all right, Kenner said, when I find something, this is what we're going to do. Great. Now we kind of know what we can work with, right? Because if some people don't qualify in some way because they have some financial issue, they don't want to waste their own time, yours, anybody else's. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, when they do that, then the next step is a pre-approval process. Unless they're paying cash, which is great because that really gives you a lot of leverage in this market.
Yeah.
Even when you're buying new construction, whether you're buying something that's multifamily, cash is always king. But otherwise, step number two would be a pre-approval process. And I can refer you to a number of local mortgage consultants, or they can work with their TD bank. What's the other one? Royal Canadian.
RBC.
They have those relationships. So I definitely, if you have that bank if you're banking there, look into that relationship. Then we start the process. And then obviously it's, what do you want to find? Are you looking for a primary residence, a second home, a vacation home, income generating home? Let's dig down deep and find out what your goal is and how we can achieve that with whatever properties are available in this area or anywhere else in Florida.
I gotcha. No, I'm vibing with you. But obviously, you do also work with U.S. citizens as well. But that's one of the groups. Yeah. Okay. I get you. By the way, thanks for mentioning us, because I never remember to mention what we do. Yeah. And we're vastsolutionsgroup.com. We do tax, finance, and artificial intelligence for entrepreneurs, mainly real estate investors. And we're doing this podcast not for new business, but also to get the word out about some of the kind of the things that can help an entrepreneur. So, okay. So, by the way, let's talk about you a little bit, because I forgot you and that accent. You're not exactly the Florida accent.
I'm not.
Go ahead and mention a little bit about yourself. And by the way, how to get a hold of you also, by the way.
Sure. So originally from New Jersey, first generation Italian. And, one of the funny things is growing up, I have a lot of family in Canada, Toronto, Montreal area, and some in Vancouver. But I've never really been or got to know them. Through a colleague at EXP Realty, I wound up connecting with a lot more Canadians. He is from Toronto. So that's where my business has been flowing. And that's what I want to do. I actually want to, and maybe you and I can talk about this because we haven't yet, is actually have an event in Toronto, possibly even Vancouver, where we can bring this information to the masses and help them understand the processes and how to buy here in the US. It's not as difficult as it appears. So, it's really just education, isn't it? So, from New Jersey, I've been in real estate since over 20 years, both mortgaging, flipping homes, property management, and also sales. And this is the part I've gotten to in Florida. And I really enjoy the Florida aspect of it because it's in a way, it is a kind of Wild West, right? It's so different, so new, and there's so many people coming here that it's really changing the dynamics of everything, and it's really getting better.
Yeah, what I would say is I think Miami, just in general, Southern Florida, because we have a kind of a quasi partner down there. So I go down there a lot. I'm going to be down there in a couple of weeks. It seems like I think it's relatively cheap. I think it's pretty good. Again, relatively cheap.
Relative.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good buying opportunity in some cases without doing all the research on the whole market. I think it's a pretty good buying opportunity. And by the way, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, I think people buy at the top, sell at the bottom. So even if there is a looming crash, well, who knows if that's going to happen, just like you're saying. But, and if we're in a crash scenario right now, we're at the bottom. Right now is the time to buy. But no,
Yeah.
people want to wait until it gets
Yeah.
better. People are talking about real estate at cocktail parties, which makes no sense. Buy low, sell high. And I think right now, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with interest rates, et cetera. Right now is time to be buying. And it sounds like if you're a Canadian or in looking for Southern Florida, you'd be one of the candidates of dudes to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, look, everyone has a different game plan, right? You know this better than most, right? Everyone is either thinking short-term, long-term, somewhere in between, or all three. So that's what we have to figure out is what is your goal? If you're looking to be in it for a couple of years, then maybe you don't want to get into a certain type of investment in real estate, right? Maybe it's something more specific. Maybe if you're thinking equity, which is probably always the smartest and safest play, then, you know, being in a property for 10 years, owning that, whether it's a rental or primary or secondary, you can do that very well here. And yes, it's not just Miami. Miami is a lot more expensive than, let's say, Jacksonville or Orlando, Daytona. But you can go to Naples and hang out with the billionaires too. You know, they have them there.
Yeah, there is a big economic, I guess, whatever you want to call it, linear progression. I mean, there's low all the way. Yeah, exactly. By the way, when you talk about New Jersey, there's a lot of New Jersey dudes down there in Florida. You know what I mean?
Yes, I see them all the license plates.
That is pretty funny. Whenever I'm there, I'm like, wow, is this New Jersey? Is this New York? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's changed so much since I got here in 2011.
I know. I love it because it's sunny. It's a good time to get away. Okay. All right. So hold on. So by the way, how does someone get a hold of you? You didn't mention that.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. So two simple ways. You could go to my website, livingin.miami. Very simple. livingin.miami. Just like I said it. And then obviously they can email me at alex@livingin.miami.
All right, cool. So you mentioned EXP. A lot of people, I think, are still moving towards EXP. I was involved with, working with EXP years ago, right when they started out of Bellingham. So mention a little bit about how they add value, because there's going to be some real estate agents that might want to be looking and thinking about EXP. And I'm neutral, by the way, but why don't you go ahead and mention a little bit about EXP?
Yeah, well, so one of the fantastic things about EXP is, unlike franchises and such, they don't have that overhead. So that's a definite benefit that then trickles down to all its employees. Most recently, with the NAR settlement, for those who aren't aware, EXP took the lead and was actually commended by the Consumer Federation. I can't remember, CFA, something that it stands for, and they commended EXP for creating the new buyer broker agreement that was actually buyer friendly. Whereas in California, they tried to make one and they said it was longer and worse. It was one of the worst things they've ever read. But EXP has done a great job at educating us, keeping us in the loop, and making sure that we're prepared for all these changes. Granted, not everyone's going to be able to make it. Some people are going to go by the way of the dinosaurs. They're not going to change. But EXP's done a great job of that, and they do have rev share. They do also have commission splits that vary. So it's definitely a great place for me. I like it because I don't have to go somewhere. I can be wherever I want.
Yeah, it's virtual. It's kind of the new way of doing things. I think it seems like a lot of models, a lot of brokerages are kind of moving towards that model. Yes. I mean, we've been virtual since 2006, so I totally get that model. Wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So again, sorry to go backwards, but tell us a little bit. Give the viewers and listeners a little bit more added value as it relates to the things that you think can make them money.
Sure. So let's take new construction, for example, condos, short-term rental, kind of like condo hotels, short Airbnb, things like that.
Okay.
Miami itself has seen such a growth in that aspect that some people in certain areas like downtown, Brickell, maybe even parts of Miami Beach are very expensive. And you're definitely not, it's very unlikely that you'll be making a lot of cash in those situations. It's strictly an equity play. So there are little pockets and you have to know where those pockets are. And one of them is North Beach, which is part of Miami Beach. And that's a great area because It's right across, most of these buildings are just steps away from the beach. It has a great little community. It's changing. It's got a band shell. They're very active community-wise. They're going to be building an aquatic center, which is so cool.
Mhm.
And then from there, Fort Lauderdale and Dania Beach,
Mhm.
these other cities are benefiting from Miami's growth. And it's not just Miami anymore. And pretty soon, Pompano Beach is up there as well. Hollywood has seen changes over the years. So it's a matter of saying to yourself, what's your lifestyle? Where do you want to be? And can you still benefit from the growth? And I say yes. If you start looking north of Miami, you definitely can still benefit.
And it sounds like you mentioned earlier, I guess off screen, that you were talking about that you're working with a lot of investors. So specifically, although there it's kind of sound like you're working with people who want to move their potential. But so like, I know it's a weird question, but how does someone get involved with you as an investor? Meaning, is it like a basic relationship with a normal real estate agent, or do you have coaching program, or what is it that you have that's a little bit different, if it is different than normal real estate agent?
Thing is, I come from a background of both being an investor and being a helping facilitate sales, right? So I understand many of the concerns, fears, desires of an investor. So that helps me, as opposed to just being a real estate agent. That definitely benefits me. Knowing the mortgage industry when I was a consultant, that helps. Programs change, rates change all the time. I don't profess to knowing all those, but I know who to work with so that I can help direct the investor into the best programs possible.
No, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that. You having mortgage background, that does help you help them navigate the waters of purchasing a house, especially as an investor, I would think.
Yep. Unless they're paying cash, that just makes it even easier again. Right? Back to the same topic.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you like it when people are buying houses in cash, right?
Well,
like that,
but
right?
if you think about it, negotiating wise, it's a smart move. So if you have the ability to do that, then you can do the famous BRRRR and take out the cash in a refi. So it's not as if your money has to be tied up, but if it's somewhere that you want to allocate it and keep it safe and in a place where it's still making you money with returns on let's say a short-term rental, it can work.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So, and then what, I get it. So what, yeah, I know it's a hard question. What types of rates of return? I know you can't answer this, but I'm gonna ask anyway. What type of rates of return are we talking about? Like, what can an investor be looking at as far as a rate of return if they invest with you, even though you probably can't say it, but I'm gonna ask anyway.
Well, I'll give you an example of something I'm working on today. We're hopefully going into contract later today on a single family purchase that is actually kind of, the best way I could explain it is it's similar to a boarding house.
Okay. This is weird. Okay.
Yes, very weird. But take the old concept of a boarding house, clean it up, make it look almost like, a lot of those Instagram pictures that you see about like kitchens and baths and all that, and make it, what's the word I'm looking for? Make it trendy, make it modern.
Make it cool Miami, is that what you're saying?
Kind of cool Miami, but you're also making it affordable because there's a certain number of people who can afford a $2,000 condo, right?
Okay.
So this gives them the ability to pay weekly and have a safe, clean place to themselves. They're sharing it with others, but it makes it possible for them to, if all they do is work and sleep, it's the perfect scenario, right? You go to work for 9 hours, you come back, you go to sleep, you watch some TV, you eat, you do your things, but it's ideal for a lot of people who are either digital nomads or fit into a certain demographic where they just work all day. So maybe they send money back home to Toronto, whatever it may be. It's called a pad split, and I can get into that a little bit more. They're a great company. They make it happen. The investor I'm working with right now is looking at potentially an 11% cap rate.
I got it. So let's unpack that. So there's this guy named Dolph DeRoos, who's a big time commercial real estate investor out of Arizona, but he was out of New Zealand. He's Dr. Dolph DeRoos. Anyway, and basically what his specialty is making, I guess, traditional investments turned into unique investments, therefore bringing in a higher ROI. What you're telling me based on that scenario, that's something that fits within that kind of category from
Correct.
the sounds of it. So why spend, I'm making this up, why spend money X on a 5-unit when you could spend, well, hopefully X minus a bunch, and make that 5-unit a 10-unit. Therefore, your cap rate, your rate of return ends up being a lot better than on the 5-unit. That's basically what you're encapsulating
That
in
is
that idea.
correct. It's quantity, right? In a sense, it's always been quantity. When someone looks to buy a single family home as an investment, somebody else will say, well, why just buy one? Why
Right.
not buy two? Or why not buy a multifamily? Or why not buy a 5+? So, it's always a matter of not just having more, but diversifying. Also, as you would say, depreciation comes into play.
Yep.
A lot of different factors that just make it more pleasant, sometimes easier to manage, and also more financially beneficial.
Yeah, if your cap's 10 or whatever, the rate of returns, whatever, 15 cash on cash is, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're an out of the box thinker a little bit more. I know you're an out of the box thinker. Believe me, I've known you for a while. I know that's the case. So how about before closing up, give us one more idea. I like that idea, by the way. That shows you thinking your feet, et cetera. So what's one more idea that can, or maybe an example or case study that you could provide the listeners and viewers that would help them to understand some of the things that you might be talking about that can help them?
Buy land.
You
Here
mean
in
raw
Florida,
land?
yeah,
Yeah.
lots, land lots. If you have the ability to hold onto land for a while, there are great opportunities that, the state's developing, right? So there's barely anything you can find in Miami that's reasonable, unless you have $23 million or more. So heading west or north, I would definitely say look into land. It's a great opportunity. It's inexpensive to hold for a while. It most likely appreciates slowly, but if you buy in the right communities, you could see a great return very quickly.
Yeah, I get it. What I'll throw this out. What are your thoughts on low income housing? Meaning, because right now, as I understand it, there's HUD vouchers that are flying around there because it's so hard to find some low income houses, and there's just not enough housing in that area. What are your thoughts there?
That's funny you say that, because in the process of looking for my client, the 9-unit that I told you, the pad split, I come across quite a few Section 8 properties, more than ever that I've noticed ever before. So yes, we are seeing a lot more of that. And I do know investors who like that route. I'm not very familiar with it. I do have a colleague that I can refer to, and he can help them with that. But Section 8 is definitely something that is beneficial for investors.
Got it. Got it. All right. What about give me closing? Anything you want to as we close up shop? Anything else you want to say to the listeners or viewers out there?
I would say, going back to the whole thing, be prepared. Talk to Kenner first. Let's get you in front of a mortgage person. Let's figure out what your plan is. And, sometimes it comes to the client stepping away, and the three of us, right, talking, me, you, and the mortgage person, to figure out what's best for that client and propose a whole plan. So, something like that, I'm sure we're more than happy to put together and collaborate on.
I like the way you think. I like that. That's a good closing message. I really appreciate it. And for you, I really appreciate you spending the time. This has been good. I think if anyone's looking at potentially buying in Florida, Southern Florida, you'd be a good candidate for someone to talk to. You know what I mean?
Thanks, Kenner, and I'm happy to be here.
Sweet. All right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot for your time. You could be watching ESPN or whatever. Instead, you guys are hanging out with us. So I really appreciate you, and I also appreciate all the listeners out there and viewers out there. All right. Once again, this is Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.